That's a swing I might do once every 6 rounds. Welcome back. We're here in the Cluboratory at Miles of Golf. As always, I'm Luke. I'm joined by one of our expert club fitters, Joey Kurtz. Joey, what's up, man?
What's up, Luke?
Today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new line of drivers from TaylorMade. It is their Qi35. TaylorMade's usually one of those drivers that every year consumers are coming into our store, and that's one of the ones they're always asking for. So this is going to be an exciting review. I would say a lot of changes, not a lot of grandiose changes in this line comparative to Qi10. We still have that Qi moniker, the quest for inertia, but into the 35 we see a little bit more changes in terms of head structure, overall aesthetic look. The first thing being known is just the overall colorway. We're getting rid of how the crown used to look. How would you describe the crown of Qi10 comparative to 35 now?
35 looks cleaner. There's no longer a seam line on top that's visual, that you see as much. It's murdered out carbon. It looks fast. It looks cool.
You saying that, it looks like the first time I sat down, that was immediately popped in my eyes. Like, this looks fast, which is like, it's tough to quantify that with data of like how it looks fast, but when you sit down, you're like, oh man, like I say in a lot of it, you want to swing it.
Yeah, it looks like something you want to hit. It would remind you of, it's the Batmobile. It's murdered out, slick black. It's an awesome look. So I mean, it's one of those where early in fittings, it's been very good. So it's good feedback.
One other aesthetic change we've seen, especially in the face, is these new lines that we kind of see down the heel or toe. It's not that we haven't seen them in the past, but what would you say this new alignment or these aids are going to do for a golfer with the face?
I mean, it's easier to frame it. I mean, it's like everything. If you look at a face and you don't see anything to orient, you're good. If you don't see anything to effectively show you where your true center is, it's just one of those things. It's easy to line up. It's more friendly for the person that's using it, where you don't have to be, oh my God, am I in the center? It just makes your life easier, where it's something easy to frame a ball. You know you're lined up, you know you're centered, and then it's just hit it.
So with Qi35, we see pretty much the same head models that we saw in Qi10 of the LS, a core head, the max head being their max forgiveness, that 10K head that they have, and then as well as their fast head, the one that's a little bit lighter, which I believe is a newer introduction to this. We didn't have the max light head in Qi10.
Correct. That's a new one for them this year. It's early. It's been a little early with that one, where I haven't been able to hand that to someone quite yet. But same theory that you see from some others, where it's that little bit lighter weight. Hopefully see the speed increase, hopefully see not only club head increase, but ball speeds.
Yeah, it's in that GT1 class. It's in the Star class that you have in Callaway. We see them in a lot of different companies where, again, we get the launch a little bit up for the person that doesn't have the same, quite that high swing speed. Yeah. Focusing more on the heads that we saw in Qi10 and now in Qi35. Some similarities and differences. Again, low spin, core, most wide variety golfers, and then a more, if anything, draw bias driver. It's not super weight in the heel meant to hook on you, but it's their ultra forgiving, and to achieve that ultra forgiveness, normally we're going to see weight a little bit back and more towards the heel. Differences from Qi10 in each of these heads. The biggest one being in the LS head that Joey actually has behind the counter over there. No more sliding weight. We're seeing that a lot in in a lot of companies across the board, of getting rid of, again, the ability to slide the weight, where it's more of a plug and play, where, hey, you can take the weight out and put it into a different fixed position on the head. Major reason for that, saving weight. Anytime you have a sliding mechanism on the head, that takes up a lot of weight on the head. So if we can get rid of that and still achieve something very similar with, again, plug and play weights, we're going to get the same result of being able to change CG with being able to save weight and put it in different parts of the head for aerodynamic purposes. Is that something you're excited about with these heads?
Yeah, I think of those 3 heads, right, 4 including the light head, LS is definitely the one that's the most intriguing, just at first opinion. I mean, having 3 weights that you can move around from heel to toe, but also a back weight, so you kind of have a 3-weight system that you can mess with. I think that gives us a lot more, kind of a versatility of, again, right, it's not just I'm a low spin player, or I'm too high, I need a low spin, where you configure those weights in a good ratio, where it's, hey, if someone hits it off the toe, listen, move it to the toe, but it doesn't mean it's going to slice.
Exactly.
Move it to the heel, doesn't mean it's going to hook. It's one of those things where it gives us a little bit more versatility for not only inside of our bays, but it also gives us that secondary where, hey, if you get out on a golf course and say, hey, it's maybe I've moved my strike location, or I took some lessons, I got a little better. Great, cool. Guess what? We can flip weights back around. You're not stuck. in
Correct.
slice or hook or just neutral.
Yep.
It gives you a lot more options, but even the core head, I think that's moving the weight more from the heel towards the center of the core. I think that will help. It's kind of a cooler idea of CG more towards dead neutral center, but more forwards. And like Luke said earlier, we've seen that in some other models this year where CG is moving more forwards and up, even in your quote unquote forgiving heads. But it's one of those things where it helps the ball speed, but it doesn't necessarily sacrifice your stability within that.
As engineering, I mean, every year obviously technology improves in the way that R&D is like taken at these factories where they're realizing that they can really pick and place where they want CGs in these heads, even in those more forgiving models. We're even seeing these changes out onto the big tour where guys that have always been in a smaller head shape, super low spin, forward CG, moving to something in that, I would say, higher MOI category because of what these engineers are able to do with CG to make sure that, hey, it's going to be more forgiving, but it's still going to keep spin down for you.
100%. I think what you just said is, spot on, right? Look at TaylorMade, look at their stable. I mean, guys like Scotty. I mean, look at guys like Rory. That has been your prototypical LS player forever.
Correct.
Guess what?
Core
LS
head.
is gone. It's core. It's core. It's the way that they continue to see those players move, and it's the same thing across everyone. I mean, everyone that you see, core is becoming more popular because now they spin like an LS, but it's more stable. So at that point, it's a win-win.
I would say, I mean, one of the major reasons someone might go into LS now, I think, is head shape wise. And that brings us kind of into the next change where LS is very similar from QI10. Again, it does almost look a little bit sleeker. It definitely has a more like tour-like profile in it.
Yeah, LS, I mean, Luke and I spoke about this a little bit ago where it's kind of, for those of you that are familiar with TaylorMade, it would remind you of like original M1 430.
Yes.
It reminds you of SLDR 430. It looks tiny. Now again, right, black's a slimming color. Sure, fine, I could buy into that, but it's like when you look down at it, it looks like that little bit smaller, more compacted, old school head with modern tack. So it's a win-win for that player especially, but it's still forgiving. I mean, I've handed it to a few people. I mean, it's been very good in that regard where it's not, even though it maybe looks smaller at address, it is by no means less forgiving if it's not dead perfect.
It's still, I was able to go out to the Kingdom and talk with the guys out there a little bit about how they went about this. It's still at like 6,000 to 7,000 units of MOI in the LS, which for a head like that, that's incredible. That's where like other companies like old forgiving head used to be. It used to be at that 6 to 7. Now that's where like, hey, that's the least forgiving.
Yeah, that's your modern floor.
Yep.
You still need something that, even if it is low spin on paper, something that is forgiving, where I think you'll start to really see that push where it's not just 10K in a 10K profile, where it's, listen, you can get a little bit smaller head, a little bit quicker head on paper, right?
Yeah.
Way more weight towards the front, just makes it more friendly for you.
In the same genre of like head shape. The max head, like going to the other end, is still very similar to what we saw, where something that might sit more towards, I don't want to say shut side, because everybody has a different opinion on like what they like to look at, right? Like
100%.
when one person's open might be one person's square, but all things being neutral, the max head is definitely similar to the QI10 max head, where it's more neutral to shut. One thing that surprised me was setting down core head as I hit it a couple times off camera. It does sit a little bit more shut-ish comparative to ones we've had in the past. It's a different head shape overall, I think, in terms of shaping, but it gives that forgiving kind of image to it. What would you say?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, right, obviously you see the leaked pictures, you see those things, but when you first set them down, if you looked at them all from the top, core and max look very similar.
Yes.
I would say new core looks like, again, like Luke said, QI10 max. Max still holds the same profile, but core has almost snuck more towards that side of the scale instead of more LS on paper looking. But even with that, like Luke said, right, that orientation of what players see, I don't think it looked too shut. It looks pretty square.
And again, it's not like, none of these look like...
None of them look dead shut.
None of them look like a Cobra Air X, where it's like, where it's super, again, like, we're walking a thin line of like trying to say like shut open, because I'm talking to the person that likes the most open drivers on the planet.
Yeah, I will nitpick anything that's that way, but I truly think, like Luke said, when you set it down, core this year gives you like like this is friendly.
Yes.
It's not going to beat me up. Like, I don't have to be perfect here. And I think, again, as people chase that stability, that 10K thing that we've seen in 2024, it's only going to continue.
Yeah.
It's not a new thing, but now it's at the forefront of that's where companies are going.
I think it has staying power. It's like it wasn't just
100%.
a flash in the pan of like this is the new fad of like we need to be,
Yeah.
this is what you're gonna see moving forward. Of I have a feeling, making a prediction, that in the coming years we're just gonna see 2 models of drive. I have a feeling that could be the direction we go. Of like you have a super low spin, and then you have your forgiving.
Yeah.
And then in that forgiving, I bet they're going to put more options into putting weight into the heel
100%.
if we need to turn it. Where the 3 heads, as we keep going, I feel like might not be what the status quo is when it comes to drivers.
100%.
As continuing down similarities and differences, carbon face, the 4th iteration of a carbon face that we've seen with them. Obviously, as I just touched on it, technology gets better year after year. We have more ways and more data to analyze on these faces of where players miss the most and where we need the most help. I mean, the originator of twist face with TaylorMade, obviously every year they're going to move certain things around to make sure that, hey, no matter where you're hitting it at on this face, we're going to get the most ball speed and reducing the amount of side spin the most that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
What I think guys like me and you are super excited about with the secret 5th head, that's what the 5 in 35 stands for, is the fitting head. I'll have pictures up on screen, but we have, if you're someone that's familiar with GC Quad, they have the GC Quad dots already placed in the head for monitoring on that. And these measurements are already built into TrackMan with this head as well. So everything about this is a fitting only head. This is not something that if you come in and buy a driver, you're not gonna get this specific driver with these marks on the face. This is just strictly for in here, which that really, I mean, excites like almost too simple of a word, but that's going to make it so much easier in here for us to monitor specific data points, especially if we're fitting on quad, to know like, hey, like if you're even off like a couple of millimeters with your sticker placement on these, they can affect, again, the output of that
read.
data.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, anything we can do in here to better fit you to a driver, that's just what gets me going a little bit of like, hey, like I can now get you into a better driver because of this technology.
Yeah.
Other than that, I can't think of anything like too big that we're missing. Again, shape changes, carbon face changes, weight changes.
Look, color.
Color, I mean, yeah, the color. I mean, I'm a big fan of the color. I've always
head.
been like a more modern guy. I just want to start putting some golf balls down and hitting them and seeing what they do. We're starting off again with the core head, 9 degrees. All these heads that we're going to test at 9 degrees. I'm not testing, the max light head today. It's a 12-degree driver. That's the fitting head we have here, where it's just not going to fit what we're doing in here. I want to take all the 9-degree heads that I can and show what each of these do in terms of launch, spin, ball speed, things of that nature. But other than that, and then I guess last thing, still neutral shaft, adapter position. I'm not changing anything loft. And Ventus Blue TR 6X. Fell off for a little bit, but that felt amazing.
That'll work.
That'll do, donkey.
Yeah. Yeah, that was perfect.
What were we looking at there?
13, 23, 290, 312.
I take that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Again, the look of it isn't something that initially, like, I'm super, not thrilled about, but it's not the normal setup because it's just a little bit more closed than what fits my eye.
Yeah.
But result-wise, it's not going straight to left, which I like to see.
Curve's been good on both those.
That's what we want to see. Keeping curvature down and keeping start line as consistent as possible is what leads to good golf. I fell back on that one, so it launched definitely higher. That's on my swing. It's not anything with the club. Felt off the toe. How'd that, like, in terms of like side spin, where were we at on that one?
Yeah, so we're talking 34 overall spin. I think obviously like we've talked kind of a little bit, right? Obviously TrackMan, a little bit dimmer light. Obviously it's bright white out as you can see.
Yeah.
We've got some snow here the past few days. But again, I think you just got a bad spin read there, but still very good. Yeah, beautiful.
That's the best one so far with that guy. What were the numbers on that one for me, Joey?
13, 2,300, 324 total, 25 feet of curve. That's what dreams are made of, boys and girls.
What was ball speed on that guy?
172 and a half.
Getting a 170 in this weather, dog. That was 4 good ones, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yep.
So LS now in my hands. The immediate change of head shape where as someone that, I've said it in every video, people are tired of probably hearing it. My first driver ever was 909D comp. This is sick. Like this is everything, again, SLDR, M1 comp, like everything about this makes me want to hit it. It doesn't instill, I would say, the same amount of confidence that Core has in it. Again, looking down, you're like, all right, I definitely have to hit this in the middle. But I'm excited. I want to see what ball speed does on this guy. Definitely more right biased, which I kind of expected coming into it. Which for me, that's awesome because I hate seeing the ball go left.
Yeah, numbers fit that shot. I mean, 3,200 for one that's obviously a little bit high right, but
3,200 for that shot for me is great.
Yeah, comparative to some of those where you may see it go north of 4. I mean, that's a win-win.
How's ball speed on that miss?
170.8.
Jesus, that's
so
awesome.
I mean, so still good. Did a good job keeping the speed up.
Better start line. I caught it low in the face.
Yep.
But super good forgiveness on a miss like that.
Yeah, I mean, numbers-wise, solid. I mean, 169.5 off the bottom part.
My attack angle is getting a little up on it, I'm guessing.
6.5. The last couple have been north of 6.
Yeah, I need to live. 4 to 5 is where I live. I kind of get to that 6 to 7 every now and then when the hip and the back aren't firing. I love seeing that little cut, I'll say that. I absolutely love that.
Is that a little low on the face again?
Yeah, I'm not striking it the best right now with this head.
I mean, even that, though, for, again, that little bit low, I mean, 12 at 26.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super good, little baby fade.
It's one of those shots we say in here. I hit that on the course. Your buddy says, good shot. I say, thanks, man. Walk back to the cart, put the head cover back on, grab a beverage. See if I can't actually put a good swing, catch one in the middle. That was the middle. Just a little close face, but that was definitely the middle of the face.
Yeah, that one's touch 'em all time there.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I mean, 175.5 ball. Obviously, TrackMan gave us a great spin there just to
Did double it on us?
Yeah, 39.52. Also showed more curve than obviously what you and I experienced real time. But I mean, obviously that ball speed, you can tell it was more middled. I mean, that's 3 mile an hour faster than your fastest with Core, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, 39, again, I pulled it a little bit, and I mean, pulled it with a closed face, so 3,900, that's 18, that's 1,900 spin rate. Which for that miss is awesome too. Like that miss I'm concerned at 1,500. Like that's what I would almost be scared of with that. That's a swing I might do once every 6 rounds. If that.
No. Ball speed reflected it. Spin rate, we doubled. But again, if we're talking 4,400, we know that's good.
22.
But I mean, 177 ball. I mean, club 119.7. So we missed it by a little bit, but still, that's moving. I mean, obviously on the go, the speed's there.
Yeah. Well, I still got some swings in me. Let's head to the max head, the super ultra forgiving. This is one of those kind of first impressions I set the max head down. It's almost, I mean, it's hard to pick the difference between this and Core setting it down, honestly, which I think is a really good thing. 100%. To know that, like, with those two models, that no matter which one you're setting down, they're going to look about the same, because having this be, I think max is more neutral than what it was in 10, which I think is a really good touch with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dog.
That'll work.
Old baby draw.
Yeah, I mean, speed-wise, good.
As we're seeing, TrackMan's not going to cooperate a lot today with the white snow, white ball. Ball speed's definitely one to look at with this, as well as curvature. Well, excuse me, not curvature because again spin rate is messing up a little bit for us, but in terms of what we see in the air of how straight and more.
It's more efficient than what we're seeing, obviously,
Yeah.
on TrackMan's screen. Yeah. Obviously, Luke and I can see it, live in person.
Yeah.
It's not curving nearly as much as it's saying, and it's definitely a few of those where it kind of doubled your spin.
Yeah.
There's no chance those are spinning that high, which is good.
Yeah. Man, I about shanked that.
A little bit of a Healy Dan there.
Yeah, that's it's still on the planet.
Hey, it gave us a spin right there.
Awesome. Take your wins when you can get them in this game.
Yeah, $32.99 for a wiper is pretty.
And like that again, that's the miss of all misses right there. High right. I still have a shot at the green most likely.
Pretty there, Luke.
None of these have started super left too, which is so nice to see. Something that we didn't touch on in the beginning, forgot to mention it. The weight's gone on the sole here. Should have definitely mentioned that at the beginning. Where we saw it super in the heel in QI10, the weight's still, you can see in the back, it's still definitely focused there, but we don't see it anymore, I guess, for the aesthetic change. If that reads spin, that's going a long ways.
Yeah, that was super straight.
Would I hit up 7 on that, though?
8. So it got you. I mean, 2,400, 290, 310.
Yeah.
Obviously, the height there got us a wee bit, but I mean, ball speed and max and what we're seeing is very similar to core.
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't seen a couple of those where you're talking pushing just north of 170. But again, like that one, I mean, 168 at that, I mean, it's numerically super efficient.
Yeah.
It's not curving around too much, so it's doing what a max head should do. It's not getting a bunch of lateral movement, which is perfect.
How many shots was that for us?
That's 4.
That's 4. So just hit all 3 heads, hit the LS, the core, and the max. My first impressions hitting them, 1, looked amazing. 2, the feel for me, as someone where feel makes or breaks a driver for me, checks the box. This was awesome. It felt really good. It sounded really good. Everything about this line of drivers is 2 thumbs up for me off the start. The LS shape was something that I could get used to looking down at if I wanted to. The numbers behind it, I mean, I know curvature-wise, LS, that's not the... In the end, might not be the driver for me, but I think it's a driver that if I manipulated weight, we really messed around with center of gravity, it's something I could bring a little bit more neutral. But I want to throw it to Joey now to kind of walk me through what went well with each head, what didn't go well, and just kind of compare the overall numbers with them.
Yeah, so starting with core, which is obviously the first one right out of the gate, I mean, numerically super efficient. I mean, very little curve, ball speed was great, spin was perfect, carries, totals, it's everything that you'd look for in a modern driver. It's high launch, relative, mid-spin, relatively speaking. But as far as numbers go, it's about as good as we could expect for anybody, regardless whether that's you or me or whoever else is hitting it. It did exactly what a core head should do. Very little curvature, super stable, quick, everything that we'd hope to see. As you start to bounce in and move over towards LS, obviously like Luke hit on the top, LS is going to curve around a little bit more, but like Luke said, both of us have an affinity for sleek-looking equipment. Yeah. So it's one of those things where when you look at it, I mean, it gives you everything you'd want to see in an LS head. Yes. It's clean, it looks fast, it's all of those things. Curve-wise, it's the nature of the beast. When you're messing with LS heads, like Luke said, if you move some weights around, it will be fine. We will find a way to make it more compatible to you. But as Luke has stated in other videos, and this one also, where it's it's core off the rack, right? The only thing that's not off the rack, obviously, is the shaft, but that's a shaft that Luke plays. So it's a shaft that we know works for him. But even at that, right, we know that TrackMan doubled the spin on a few of them. But again, ball speed, it's exactly what you'd expect out of an LS. It's a heavy hitter. It's fast. It does all of those things. And again, if it's that fast and we stabilize a few of those, we've seen a few where it's almost 180.
Yes.
I mean, that is moving, especially on a day like today where it's 20 and it's cold and it's at the back end of a day. That is what we would hope to see. So numerically, it's exactly what an LS should be. You move over into the max head, obviously, again, right, you're talking stability, right? That's the whole name of the game in those kind of 10K heads. So ball speed, a little bit slower. Club speed was also down a little bit, but it's again, right? It's the back end of a test.
Yeah.
But at that point still, I mean, 13 at 29, 283, 305. Obviously we had the one where it was pretty interesting that Luke hit where it obviously moved a little bit more right than normal. Luke has stated before, right, we do not like seeing left. Right is always the better miss, historically speaking, for a higher speed player.
Yeah.
But even at that one, when he hit it, I mean, it was 3,200. I mean, that's nothing.
Perfect.
That's nothing on that shot compared to what you may see in some other ones. But even then, I mean, curve-wise, it's exactly what you'd want. I mean, it's straight, it's stable. Sure, it's a little slower, but again, right, weight's all the way back. Everything else, the weight's more forwards. That will affect ball speed. But numerically, all three of the heads do what they're supposed to do. But it's, again, it looks great. It's like we've talked. It looks good. It feels good. It looks like a sports car. It's everything you'd hope to see. It looks sleek, but it's definitely one of those contenders in 2025 QI10 was good. QI10 was a bounce back from kind of the first two iterations of the carbon face, but I think this one is the one where it's the culmination of the three.
Yeah.
It has the speed, it has the looks, it has the quality, it has all of those things that we would want to see in these bays where it checks every box.
Something you mentioned there, I want to like kind of run on a little bit. We are on the fourth iteration of carbon where I think we can say it now, years removed from the first Stealth. It was definitely fast off the jump, but they had to figure out a couple things with the carbon face. I think they got their legs firmly underneath them now with carbon in terms of how they want it to perform and how, again, the stability of it in general. Now they can kind of really pull some levers that they want to mess around with CG and then achieve that, what we saw today. Also getting into, again, every test I do in here, I always want to make sure that every driver checks the boxes that it needs to. LS being low spin and probably a little bit on the faster end, check. Core model, still maintaining a spin relative to what I needed to and not overspinning on me and giving me a good ball speed, check. Max, being that super ultra forgiveness where I can fall off of it, almost hit it off the hosel, have it only spin at 3,200 and still stay in the fairway, check. Past that, what TaylorMade is doing really well with this line of drivers where I think it's going to really give them that step up, not step up, but the aesthetics of it. It looks so freaking cool, man, looking down at it, to where it's like, hey, like, sure, all the numbers perform, but it's like, at the end, when you set it down on the first tee, like, what do you want to look down at? This is a look that for a lot of, like, it's that modern look that golfers are going to be like, hey, like, I like that. And that's that next step of, like, now they can start messing with aesthetics to really give them that edge up here in the fitting bay. Other than that, again, super, super impressed. I say that after every video, but drivers nowadays, every driver is really good nowadays. It's hard to, like, have a driver in where we're at now where it's just going to, none of these are going to suck. It's like the company's not going to put it out, obviously. This is an amazing driver. You have to come in, you have to check it out. Thanks as always to everybody that's watching. It's really cool seeing that people actually watch these videos. It's awesome. Leave a comment below of what other stuff you want us to shoot in the future. Other than that, I'm Luke.
I'm Joey.
Peace, guys.